Hi, welcome business schoolers. I'm Insert McDonald from Econ Infinity.
I'm Etel Williams, also from Econ Infinity.
And this is another episode of Business School. So guys, remember last episode we talked about factors of production. We talked about production, we talked about productivity. Remember the abbreviation guys, LLCE. But right now, we're going to give you guys the good stuff. What is that, Etel?
Yes, so we are looking at past paper questions. Of course, we'll be diving into questions associated with productivity, production, the factors of production. So the first question here we have answered is name, and this is a 2003 past paper. 2013, sorry, past paper. And of course, the question states, name one type of economic system. Well, we'll dive into the different types, right, of economic system, as you can see on the board, right, Israel?
Right, so we have on a spectrum,
right?
Kind of. We have traditional economic system, free market, centrally planned, and mixed economies. So that in itself are the different types, but we have to talk about them at Econ Infinity. We can't just leave them like that.
Yes.
So at traditional economy, right, think about prehistoric times. Back in the day, we had the Tainos, the Kalinagos, if I'm saying it right.
Yes.
We have the people from the Azteca. So those persons in their economy, how they allocate resources are on like a subsistence level.
Yes.
So they do a lot of farming, a lot of hunter-gathering relationships. Now, how we organize resources has improved over time.
Yes.
So we have another one. You want to talk about the free market, Etel?
Yes, free market capitalism. In the USA, you know, free market. Who determines what to produce? You know, the producers themselves are the consumers through demand and supply, right? Who control the factors of production? You know, it is the firm and the households, right? Of course, in the free market economy, and you also look at how goods are produced, right? By private consumers or private companies seeking products. So those are the things that fall under the free market spectrum. Then we move to
centrally planned economy. And once you hear a planned economy, just think about the government. An example is China. So the government organizes the economic resources as to what to produce, who to produce it to. You understand? So just think about the government saying, okay, we want 10 economists. Obviously, me and Ekel are one of them. We have some hairdressers, we have different type of workers. So they organize economic resources to the T. So just think about that.
And then we move on to the final one, which is the mixed economic system. And in that domain is Jamaica. You know, part of the resources are controlled by the government and the other part is controlled by the private sector. Each come together and we have PPP, public-private partnership, what to produce, determined by the private businesses, the household, sometimes the government. So it is just a collaborative effort. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but it's mixed. Economic resources are owned by both, you know, the private sector and the public sector.
Yes, guys, so those are our type of economic system. So that is question 1 done.
Yes.
Question 2 said we were to couple some table, which is this right here, about the factors of production. And we just need to what?
Assign the rewards and also assign the factor to which the rewards are associated with. So the first one here, we have
rewards on this side and we have the factors on this side. But guys, you know the answer because remember the word, guys, LLCE, which stands for labor.
Continue.
Gonna have land, this is another L, and we have the big E. The big E is enterprise, entrepreneurship. So we already know that, man. So you put a labor land right there.
Yes, so land is associated with rent. You get rent for land. And then you have, Israel just spoke of what? Wages.
Yes.
For labor, the rewards to labor are wages.
Yes, that's the bricks in our pockets.
Yes.
From capital now, what we have, Etel?
You have the interest. So you have to, I want to speak more on capital because it can be, some students told us that it's a bit confusing. So let me just try to explain. When we speak of capital and interest, normally interest is paid on loans, right? When you borrow money, you pay back the entire money and give them some interest. So why they associate interest with capital and capital is not really a loan? Think about it. to buy these capital equipment, you need, economists assume that you have to borrow to invest, and capital is a form of investment because the sum of money is so large that you can't go on there mattress and reach for it and buy a truck. You have to borrow it from a company, right? So you borrow that money and you have to pay back interest. So through the capital and the borrowing of funds, you pay back the interest. So we have interest here.
Yeah, man, right.
Finally.
Remember LLCE. Entrepreneurship, guys. I remember that the only reason why we have entrepreneurs, guys, is because they want the bricks, you know, they want the big bricks, which is what we call profit.
So stay with us, guys. We will jump right into another segment of this episode. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, business schoolers. We are doing practicing past papers, and we will just dive right back into the next question on this past paper, which tells us Israel to list or explain the disadvantages of the division of labor. But firstly, the division of labor. Ezra, take it away.
Yes, guys. So to explain division of labor, I want to give you a story. So nowadays we have people like me and Ethel who specialize in economics. You have somebody who specializes in accounts. But let's go back to the past, guys. Let's go back to the Tainos and their society, the subsistence. Now, back in the Taino village, you know, you had this Taino guy and he needs goods and services. So he decided to go and fish, decide that he need clothes, so he build that and he built his mud hut. But what the village chief did was said to himself, no man, I'm going to assign you to fishing, you to hunting, you to gathering. And out of that idea came a vast amount of goods and services that were produced that was not produced before. So now that is the idea of specialization, and when we move it to labor now, what you notice with division of labor is that we assign labor to do one specific task. So that is what division of labor is, doing one specific task. So you have Ethel who did the hunting, you have probably me be the village chief, you have the brains, guys, you understand? You understand? So the question said that you were to talk about two disadvantages.
Yes,
so
yes, I'm going to use the example that you use. Mm-hmm. Now, when the village chief assigned the hunter and the fisher, what if the hunter dies, right? We don't have no more hunters. The thing is, what if you wasn't training any more hunters? So what will happen? There will be a deficiency. There is a dependency when there is specialization, and that in itself is a disadvantage, right? People becoming dependent on others for goods and services. Great example. The next disadvantage would be unemployment. The same hunter, what if that was his only job? Let's bring it up now to modern times. Mm-hmm. An economist. What if we weren't holistic economists and we only focus on development? We couldn't be speaking now only on labor. So you have to be holistic in your approach. Mm-hmm. So that is unemployment. What if they don't need any more developmental economists?
I have another example. So guys, talk about division of labor. I want you guys to imagine an assembly line. And I'm building a phone company. So you have one person who deal with the battery, take the battery and put into this. You have an next person who wrap the phone, you have an next person who put it in a box. Yes. Imagine you being that labor where just taking batteries and putting into phone. Why? I am so bored. Yeah, so there's a lack of concentration and you'll be very bored once you have division of labor in its full extent.
Excellent. So that is a disadvantage. Boredom. Boredom is definitely a disadvantage. Doing the same thing over and over.
Then it's monotonous.
Yes, no development of skills per se. No, and a final one we could look at is the over concentration of that particular what could we say, job. Mm-hmm. Yes. So if we have, like for example, a lot of persons are moving into the traditional sectors, you know, accounts, law, doctor, all of those. The concentration, if the country doesn't really need much of those, if the supply is more than the demand, then we'll have what? over concentration, and we won't have any other persons to spill over into the different sector like logistics, which is going to become very important because we are going to establish that logistics up in. Just watch, it's either Rotterdam or the Singapore. Jamaica is the third. Remember I tell you that. So we need that. We need persons. So when you specialize, mostly you have that over concentration in that particular job. So yes guys, so that concludes that particular question, and we will dive into another question which tells us to distinguish between production and productivity.
Yes guys, so we know what they are, right? Production just talks about organizing raw materials to make goods, or you can use services to satisfy human wants and desires. So that in itself is production. You can give an example, Ethel?
Yeah, so production is just look at the processes involved in the creation of goods and services. So just think about an orange juice, OJ. You know, you have to pick the orange, then you have to transport the orange from point A to point B, then they start to, you know, put it through the process of creating the juice from the orange, and all of that is production, the different processes. Israel wanted to say something.
Yes guys, and the thing with production is that it encapsulates LLCE, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. It's where it is in full effect.
Yes, and the productivity side now, the difference is you look at the amount of output, the amount of production per unit of input, per unit of factor of production. How efficient can you produce? So that's basically productivity, and that brings us to
the end of this segment. So guys, stay tuned because we have one last burning question that we want to tackle, guys. So stay tuned. It's Ainsworth and Ethel from Business School.
We'll be right back.
Hi guys, Ainsworth from Econ Infinity, and I want to tell you that 99% of learning is pattern recognition. What I mean by that is you guys have to repeat, practice, get a textbook or exercise book, write out all the definitions, write out all the graph all 10, 15, 20 times. Pattern recognition, remember that, 99% of learning. Yeah man, welcome back Business Schoolers. So we're on the past paper chain, right? And we stop at this stop now, and we're at identify 3 advantages of division of labor.
Yes, so we just look at the disadvantage, so just flip it. Now what are the advantages? You know, improving skills. Doing the same thing over and over. There's a quote that if you spend an hour daily doing the same thing over and over, your skill, what you love, in 5 years or less, you will become a national expert.
So hopefully me and Ethel become national economics experts. Yes guys, so that is one advantage. So we want to talk about another advantage, which is time saving. That's a big one right there guys. Remember that in economics we have scarcity, and the most precious resource in life is time. We have to save it, and that's the thing is, we break up the production process into different parts. You have somebody that specializes, and once you're specialized, they can do things quicker. That saves you a lot of times in which you can now reroute into even other productive means.
Yeah man, so think about even production of bottles. You know, you have one person organizing the bottle, and then another person jump to cork the bottle or build that. So in dividing it, person focus on one task, another one focus, so just pass along the production line efficiently and smooth, just as how my hand is moving smooth, right? So yes, that's another advantage. A third advantage is specialization in best lines. What does that mean? So division of labor, possibly for people concentrated on what they do best. Some people like working with their hands, some people like selling things, right? So best line, what is your skill? You know, Steve Harvey would say your skill is the thing you do the absolute best with the least amount of energy. Do you use your hands well? Are you a craftsperson? Can you draw? Do you sell?
Are you a village chief like me? The thinking, guys, so that's it. So yes guys, those are advantages of division of labor. Now we're going to talk about another question. So it says, with reference to the sugar industry, distinguish between primary and secondary factors of production?
Yes, guys, this question, you know, yeah, it can have you thinking a bit, you know, primary factors of production. What are those? We know primary factors of production is the land, labor, capital, you know, the first line inputs, right? That is primary factor of production. So you look at the land, the labor, the capital, those are primary. Now, secondary factors of production is when you use the primary factors and generate other inputs, right? They are not finished factors, but inputs, intermediate factors that can be used to make finished goods, right? So in the sugar industry, when you look at primary factor, let's think about the labor, right? That's a labor. On the cane field, the person operating the tractor, or the person who burns the cane field, right?
When you talk about labor, that's capital as well?
Yes. So, well, yes, of course. So that is the primary in the sugar. But what about the secondary? Now, associated with the primary factor, labor, is the secondary factor of energy, right? So the worker produces energy, they exert energy on the cane field.
Boy, you know what I was thinking about? I was just thinking about the primary, you know, could be just like the cane. And when I move it to like the secondary, you know, that we put it to like a press and we get some juice out of it and some extract.
The cane is the factor of production, the primary?
The primary, yes, and then you transform it into like cane juice or something that used for molasses. You get me? That could be the secondary, and then we convert it into molasses, isn't it? So that could be an example as well, guys, you know?
Exactly. And of course, that brings us to the end of that question. It also brings us to another question. It just asks us simply to identify 3 rewards or gains to the factors of production, and we looked at that in previous examples. So insert, let me just list it. Let's see how quick you are now. I'm going to list the factors of production, and you have to list the reward in just a split second.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Capital.
Interest.
No time gone. Let's go again. Labor.
Wait.
It's slow. You try the other one. Try.
Entrepreneurship.
Profits, quick man, quick knowledge. That's it, people. That's brain pop. So yes, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode, end of this segment, and the end of the episode. Of course, we had a fun time. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you guys are learning. Remember, CSEC Cape is around the corner. So guys, just maintain your balance, stay focused. Ainsworth, you have anything to say to
yes,
them?
business schoolers, man. Remember that we believe in you, guys. So just tune in every week while we give you all the good stuff, you know?
Yes,
all right,
man.
man.
So stay tuned. Next week, we will see you. Big up on yourself, business schoolers. We're out.